Taylor Swift's fortune soared from about $500 million to $2.1 billion in just 3 years. No tech company, no IPO, just sold-out stadiums, a music catalog, and a battle for her masters. Keep watching to see how those moves created one of the fastest wealth jumps of the decade. In late October 2023, Bloomberg dropped a number that changed how people talked about Taylor Swift forever. The outlet, which runs the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, said Swift's total net worth is now at $1.1 billion, thanks to a record-breaking Eras tour that helped boost the U.S. economy this summer. Before that summer, she wasn't in that club. She was rich, sure, but not join Jay-Z, Rihanna, and Beyoncé rich. Bloomberg was blunt about how rare this was. Bloomberg said Swift is one of the few entertainers to reach that status based on just her music and performance. No cosmetics line, no liquor brand, no tech startup, just songs and shows. The tour itself was the engine. The success of the Eras Tour, a Super Bowl-sized event spanning numerous cities that shattered records and sparked ticket frenzies, has propelled the pop star's net worth past $1 billion, according to a Bloomberg News analysis. And the breakdown of that number is where things get interesting. The calculation took into account the estimated value of her music catalog and 5 homes, and earnings from streaming deals, music sales, concert tickets, and merchandise. This includes an estimated $400 million from her music released since 2019, $370 million from ticket sales and merchandise, $110 million from her 5 personal properties. Now here's a wild detail. That $400 million catalog figure only counted songs she released after 2019. That's the music she's released since 2019. The music she made before that is now held by Shamrock Holdings. If all of her music is included, the value reaches $1 billion on its own, per Bloomberg. So even while she didn't own her earliest work, Bloomberg still had to account for how valuable it was. That detail matters a lot later. Where did the touring money actually come from? Not just ticket stubs. Swift could earn as much as $4.1 billion from the tour, calculated on the standard artist share of 85%, according to the Washington Post. The 12-time Grammy winner makes between $10 million and $13 million per show, according to Forbes. Do the math on that per-show number across over 100 shows, and you start to see how fast the number moves. The tour wasn't just good for Swift, it was bending entire local economies. The totality of Taylor Swift's U.S. tour could generate $4.6 billion in total consumer spending, larger than the GDP of 35 countries, the report states. Cities were rearranging themselves around her calendar. In July, she doled out about $55 million in bonuses to the dancers, caterers, drivers, riggers, and more who worked on the Eras tour. She wasn't just banking the money. She was redistributing chunks of it in real time, while the number kept climbing behind her. There was also a concert film, of all things, became a genuine box office story. Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour has brought in around $165 million at the worldwide box office in the past 2 weeks, thanks to support from fans and other moviegoers curious to get a taste of the Eras Tour for themselves. That makes it the highest-grossing concert tour movie of all time. And Swift didn't just license it out for a flat fee like most artists would. She struck a deal with AMC, which became the exclusive distributor of the film, and Taylor earned an unprecedented 50% of first-dollar gross from the ticket sales. That's the kind of deal structure normally reserved for studio executives, not singers. She kept control, kept the upside, and pocketed it directly. By the time Bloomberg made its call in late October, the tour hadn't even finished. It was barely past the halfway mark. The 146-date Eras Tour, which is expected to be the highest-grossing tour of all time when it closes next year, is projected to have a $5 billion economic impact on the U.S., according to software company Question Pro. So picture where things stood. One tour still running, one catalog partially owned, one movie breaking records, and a number, $1.1 billion, that was already out of date the moment it was published, because the tour kept rolling into Europe, Asia, and South America for another full year after that headline hit. That's the starting point for the climb, not the finish line. The starting point. 3 years later, the number would nearly double, then double again. And to understand how, You have to understand two separate stories running at the same time. One about a stage, and one about a signature on a piece of paper from years earlier that Swift had spent half a decade trying to undo. To understand how fast this number moved, you need to understand what the Eras Tour actually was, mechanically, as a business. It ran for close to 2 years. The tour lasted 632 days, with 149 shows in over 50 cities across 5 different continents. That's not a normal touring schedule. Most stadium acts do 40, maybe 60 shows and call it a cycle. Swift nearly tripled that, and she did it while also releasing an entirely new album in the middle of the run. The final tally, once all the dust settled, was staggering. The tour, which began on March 17, 2023 and concluded on December 8, 2024, netted over $2 billion for 149 shows, making it the highest-grossing concert tour ever. Nobody else in music history had crossed that line. Not U2, not the Rolling Stones, not Elton John's farewell run. $2 billion from tickets alone. Break that down by market, and the numbers get almost absurd. Just the American leg, on its own, reshaped regional economies. The 146-date Eras Tour, which is expected to be the highest-grossing tour of all time when it closes next year, is projected to have a $5 billion economic impact on the U.S., according to software company QuestionPro. That would produce a gross domestic product larger than 50 countries. Later estimates pushed that even higher once international legs were factored in. The Eras Tour alone has generated over $5 billion for local economies in the U.S. So far, according to the U.S. Travel Association, individual stops became case studies in economics classes. When Swift wrapped her Los Angeles residency at SoFi Stadium, researchers tracked the ripple effect. The final 6 nights of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour in Los Angeles were estimated to bring $320 million to the city, according to the California Center for Jobs and the Economy. That's 6 nights. 6! Now, here's the part that gets skipped a lot. Swift's personal cut of all that gross revenue wasn't small change either. Estimates on her per-show earnings put her well above almost any other touring artist working today. Forbes noted in 2024 that the singer's estimated $190 million post-tax earnings from her historic Eras Tour helped boost the country and pop musician into the 3 Comma Club, the first person to do it based primarily on songwriting and performing. Compare that to her earlier tours, and you see the acceleration in real time. Her first ever world tour, the Fearless Tour from 2009 to 2010, brought in $75 million, and her grosses have grown exponentially ever since. Her Speak Now World Tour made a whopping $123.7 million, while Red Tour took in $150.2 million. Her 1989 World Tour in 2015 netted a slick $250 million, the highest by far of any artist that year. Each tour roughly doubled the last one. By the time Eras rolled around, that curve went vertical, and the pandemic almost stopped the whole thing before it started. She'd planned a tour years earlier that never happened. The Eras Tour is Swift's first since 2018, after she canceled her planned Loverfest tour in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During that dead period, her income actually shrank. In 2021, Taylor Swift earned a smaller, but still impressive, $52 million. With touring put on hold because of the pandemic, Swift earned the majority of her money after re-recording her album Red and adding Fearless, Taylor's version, to her new catalog. That's the low point right before the climb starts. A pop star making $52 million a year isn't struggling by any normal measure. But compared to what came next, it's a rounding error. That number would grow nearly 40-fold within 3 years. There's also the movie money running parallel to the tour money, and it kept compounding in ways that surprised even industry analysts. A concert film of the tour, self-funded and distributed directly through AMC Theaters, earned $260 million at the worldwide box office. She then sold it to stream on Disney Plus for an estimated $75 million, adding a second Disney deal for a behind-the-scenes series and a second concert film for an additional estimated $100 million. So while the stadiums were selling out night after night, there was a second business running behind the scenes: licensing, streaming rights, distribution deals that most fans never thought about while they were tying friendship bracelets in the parking lot. Every piece of that machine fed straight back into one number. Merchandise was its own quiet fortune builder too. According to Forbes, her coveted on-site merchandise, which she sells at an average price of $80, could add an estimated $87 million in proceeds to her fortune. Multiply that across 149 shows in 50-plus cities, and merch alone starts looking like a mid-size company's annual revenue. By the time the last truck pulled out of the last stadium in December 2024, the Eras Tour hadn't just made Swift a billionaire. It had rewritten what a single touring cycle could be worth for one person. But touring money, as big as it was, wasn't the whole story. The other half of the fortune was tied up in a fight that had nothing to do with stages. It was about who legally owned the songs being played on them. Here's where the story splits off the stage and into a courtroom-adjacent drama that had been simmering since 2019. Back then, Swift's old label got sold, and with it went the master recordings to her first 6 albums, the songs that made her famous in the first place. In June 2019, a dispute emerged between American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift and her former record label, Big Machine Records, its founder Scott Borchetta, and its new owner Scooter Braun, over the ownership of the masters of her first 6 studio albums. She didn't get a say in the sale. Mainstream media reported in June 2019 that Braun purchased Big Machine from Borchetta for $330 million, funded by various private equity firms. Swift went public and called it her worst-case scenario, accusing Braun of years of mistreatment and saying she'd never even gotten a real shot to buy the catalog herself before it changed hands. A year later, the masters changed hands again. In October 2020, Braun sold the masters, associated videos, and artworks to Shamrock Holdings, an American private equity firm owned by Roy E. Disney's estate, for a reported $405 million. So now a Disney-linked investment firm owned the rights to Fearless, Red, 1989, and the rest. Swift's response was to build an entire parallel catalog. She started re-recording those same albums from scratch, branding them Taylor's version, so fans and licensors could use her versions instead of the ones she didn't own. Shamrock Holdings acquired the masters in 2020, whereupon Swift re-recorded and released 4 of the albums from 2021 to 2023 to exert control over her music catalog. It worked better than almost anyone expected. The re-recorded albums didn't just perform well, they crushed the charts. Fearless, Taylor's version, and Red, Taylor's version, both debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. Every stream of the new version was a stream that didn't go to Shamrock. Every sync license for a movie or commercial that used the new version was money that bypassed the people who legally owned the originals. She was economically starving her own back catalog on purpose. The originals. She was economically starving her own back catalog on purpose. That strategy quietly devalued the very asset Shamrock was sitting on. By the time real buyback talks got serious, the originals weren't worth what they used to be, because Swift had built better-selling substitutes for almost all of them. Then, in the spring, 5 years after the whole saga started, it actually happened. On May 30, Swift announced that she bought the rights to the master recordings of her first 6 albums from Shamrock Capital. The purchase price was about $360 million, according to Billboard. Given that Shamrock had paid over $400 million for that same catalog just 5 years earlier, the price tag told its own story. Given that sources close to the negotiations say Swift paid a price close to the $360 million price tag Shamrock paid back in 2021, that would imply Shamrock did not make much, if any, profit off the sale of the assets. Her re-recording strategy had worked so well, it flattened the resale value of the things she was buying back. Swift didn't hold back on how she felt about it. She wrote to fans that the deal represented something she'd nearly given up hope for. "This is really happening." She wrote in a statement that had Swifties and music industry veterans alike tearing up. "I almost stopped thinking it could ever happen, after 20 years of having the carrot dangled and then yanked away. But that's all in the past now. All of the music I've ever made now belongs to me." And the deal wasn't just the 6 albums, it was everything attached to them. The deal gives Swift full ownership of Taylor Swift, Fearless, Speak Now, Red, 1989, and Reputation, along with the music videos, concert films, unreleased songs, and album art that came with them. Financially, this is the single biggest lever in the whole 3-year climb, because it converted her from an artist who partially controlled her income into one who fully controlled it. Every stream, every commercial placement, every future re-release, all of it now flows straight to her. Instead of splitting off to some outside firm, Swift now owns all her music. Every stream, every sync license, every sample clearance generates revenue that flows directly to her rather than through label intermediaries. That ownership structure creates compounding returns that will continue building wealth for decades. That's the difference between renting your own life's work and owning it outright. And once she had it, the value of that catalog on paper jumped almost immediately, because analysts had to stop discounting it for the ownership dispute and start pricing it like a fully controlled asset. Bloomberg's later estimates reflected exactly that shift. Bloomberg's October 2025 estimate placed her even higher at $2.1 billion, reflecting the continued momentum from her historic Eras Tour and strategic catalog acquisitions. So by the middle of the 3-year window, both engines were firing at once, the tour dumping cash in through ticket sales, and the Masters fight resolving in her favor at almost the exact same moment. That combination is rare. Usually an artist gets one big financial win at a time. Swift stacked 2 of the biggest possible wins, a record tour and a Masters buyback, back to back. With the tour wrapped and the Masters back in her hands, you'd think the growth might slow down. It didn't. If anything, the pace picked up. By spring 2024, trackers were already confirming she'd crossed the billion mark for good, not just as a one-time Bloomberg estimate. Taylor became a billionaire in late May 2024, roughly halfway through the European leg of her Eras Tour. While some trackers noted she hit billionaire status in late 2023, Celebrity Net Worth's conservative accounting officially confirmed the milestone on May 24, 2024, as the Eras Tour's European profits were realized. And right before that European leg started, her number had been sitting at a fraction of where it would land. Before she embarked on the tour, Taylor's net worth was $500 million. That's the actual starting line for this whole story. $500 million before the tour, $2.1 billion 3 years later. Everything in between is the climb. By the end of 2024, once the tour had fully closed out, Forbes had her at a new figure entirely. As of December 2024, Swift has an astonishing net worth of $1.6 billion, according to Forbes. While she hit billionaire status during the first leg of her Eras Tour in 2023, her net worth has only continued to grow. That made her the wealthiest female musician alive, passing a title that had belonged to someone else for years. The 36-year-old dethroned Rihanna, who previously held the title of the world's richest female musician, with a net worth of $1.4 billion, thanks mostly to her cosmetics line Fenty Beauty and her lingerie line Savage X Fenty. What made Swift's version of that title different is the source. Rihanna built hers through beauty and lingerie companies, actual product businesses with factories, retail deals, supply chains. Swift's fortune came from something far more old-fashioned, songs and shows. Taylor has built her wealth almost entirely through music, and her earnings were boosted considerably by the success of her sellout Eras Tour. Then 2025 happened, and the number jumped again. The Masters deal closed in May. A new album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropped in October, and sold in numbers that stunned even her own team. Her October 2025 album, The Life of a Showgirl, sold 2.7 million copies on its US release day alone. By that point, Bloomberg's tracking had her past the 2 billion mark for the first time. Bloomberg reported Taylor Swift's wealth tops $2 billion before Life of a Showgirl album release. Forbes caught up to a similar number not long after, framing it as a doubling of her fortune in under 2 years. In 2024, Swift reached billionaire status thanks to the Eras Tour, which became the highest-grossing concert tour in history with revenue of $2.2 billion. She used the cash to buy back her original masters for an estimated $360 million. By March 2026, her net worth doubled to $2 billion, making her the richest female musician in history. Break down where all that value actually sits, and you get a fuller picture than just touring money. The catalog itself, now fully hers, carries a huge chunk of the total. Her music catalog is valued at an estimated $900 million, boosted by the 2025 repurchase of the masters of her first 6 albums for about $360 million. She earned nearly $800 million from royalties and touring, and her Eras Tour concert film raked in over $267 million worldwide. Since its October 2023 premiere, Real Estate, while nowhere near the biggest slice, still added up to a serious sum on its own. Her real estate portfolio is estimated to be worth over $150 million, including a $30 million Beverly Hills mansion, a $17.75 million seaside estate in Rhode Island, and an estimated $40 million in New York City property. And she kept adding to that portfolio even mid-climb, at one point dropping serious money renovating a property that would later host major life events. Reports on her spending during this stretch describe a woman treating her real estate like an extension of her brand, not just personal shelter. By 2026, Forbes had settled on a figure that made the trajectory undeniable. Swift enters her wedding weekend with an estimated net worth north of $2.1 billion. Same number Bloomberg had flagged the previous October, now confirmed by a second major outlet using a different methodology. 2 separate trackers, 2 different formulas, landing on almost the exact same figure. What's notable is how little of this came from anything outside music. No cosmetics empire, no fashion line, no tequila brand, no headphone company, none of the side hustle plays that usually pad out a celebrity fortune. Throughout her illustrious career, Taylor's key income streams have been her record sales, concert tours, merchandise sales, and royalties, rather than high-profile brand endorsements. That's genuinely rare at this scale. Every other musician who's crossed into 10-figure territory recently did it with a business bolted onto their music career. Swift did it with just the music career itself, stretched about as far as one can stretch it. Bigger tours, smarter deals, and finally, full ownership of the work. So where does all this leave things 3 years after that $500 million starting point? The clearest answer sits in the side-by-side comparison analysts keep drawing. Less than 2 years after the singer's estimated net worth was revealed to be $1.6 billion, Taylor's net worth jumped once again to a whopping $2 billion, according to Forbes. Whether you use Bloomberg's $2.1 billion or Forbes's $2 billion, the shape of the curve is the same, a $500 million figure that multiplied itself roughly 4 times over in 3 years. She's still not the richest musician alive, and it's worth being straight about that ceiling. She remains the wealthiest female artist, but she is not the richest musician. That title goes to Jay-Z, whose net worth currently sits at $2.8 billion per an updated Forbes profile. Jay-Z built his fortune across decades and multiple companies, champagne, streaming, sports agencies. Swift closed most of that gap in a third of the time, using 1 tour and 1 buyback. The Masters situation, once the most contentious topic in her career, has settled into something closer to a case study now. Industry watchers point to her deal as reshaping how younger artists think about signing away rights in the first place. What does this mean, and what implications could it have for other artists? was the question circling music schools and industry panels almost immediately after her announcement. Artists were watching one of their own claw an entire catalog back from private equity and asking whether they could do the same. Her spending habits during this stretch tell their own story about how she treats the money. Instead of disappearing into private jets and closed-door parties exclusively, a noticeable chunk went straight back out the door. In December 2024, it was reported that Swift's contributions to her crew had risen to $197 million over the past 2 years. In December 2023, Swift made a $1 million donation to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee after tornadoes swept across the state. Bonuses for truck drivers and dancers, disaster relief checks, food bank donations tied to tour stops. The fortune grew, but so did the amount flowing back into the communities she passed through. There's also a quieter financial decision that gets less attention than the Masters deal, but says a lot about how she manages risk. In 2022, she backed out of a $100 million sponsorship deal with FTX over concerns of selling unregistered securities. That single call likely saved her from being tied to one of the biggest financial collapses of the decade. A lot of celebrities who signed with that company spent years afterward dealing with lawsuits and reputational fallout. Swift walked away before any of that hit. Looking at the whole arc now, the growth wasn't one lucky break. It was 2 separate massive financial events landing in the same 3-year window. A tour that broke every historical benchmark for live music revenue, and a 5-year legal and creative battle over ownership that finally resolved in her favor at almost the exact same time the tour was closing out. Either one alone would have been a career-defining financial moment. Together, they produced a curve that goes from $500 million to over $2 billion without a single flat stretch in between. What comes next is still an open question. She's already teased new music, a possible residency, and further ventures into film distribution that could add entirely new revenue lines on top of what's already there. The catalog she fought years to reclaim is now fully hers to license, re-release, or build on however she chooses for as long as she wants. Whatever the number reads a year from now, the mechanics behind it, full ownership, direct control, no middlemen taking a cut, are locked in place. That's the part of this story that isn't just about money. It's about a decade-long fight over control, finally paying off in numbers big enough that no